was pretty bored with life around the time when I ran into TA, and I was already 54 years old. Psychoanalysis did not arouse any passion in me, but transactional analysis became my passion.
And do you think that it is your passion for TA and passion for helping people that has enabled you to be so vital?
Yes. And that got me excited. And I think that helped me live longer, or at any rate enjoy my life more.
This is Three People in Your Head, a podcast about getting the best out of yourself and others. Co-hosted by John Fleming and myself, Matt Taylor.
In this episode, we speak with Fanita Inglиш, who is a teaching and supervising transactional analyst in the psychotherapy field. Fanita is also an author, psychoanalyst, group analyst and TA elder who last year received the ITAA Lifetime Achievement Award at the incredible age of 104. She shares with us her introduction to TA, which was not so long after TA came into existence, her experience of using TA in comparison with psychoanalysis, and also some of her thoughts on vitality and her theory on the three motivators. We are so thrilled to be able to bring this very special episode to you.
So Fanita, maybe you could start off by introducing yourself to our listeners, maybe a little bit about your role in the TA community, just to start.
Okay. Well, my name is Fanita Inglиш, and I've been a TA person since 1964. And I now was given, I'm very proud of that, the Fanita Inglиш certificate, which they established for a meaningful life or something like that. So I've been quite active in running TA groups in the United States and in Europe, also in Germany, in France, in Italy, and so on. Not in England. Well, I did do one or two in England with friends, but that was exceptional.
Ah, interesting. So you have taught in England?
Well, I have taught in England. I taught one little presentation on rackets and racketeering.
Excellent.
There was a group organized by Sills, Charlotte Sills.
Oh, yes.
Oh, very good.
So, it's up to you. Is there anything you would like to ask or find out?
Yes. I suppose, really, Fanita, we'd like to start off by exploring some of your history in the TA community. So, obviously, Matt and I know a little bit about you, but we've never spoke to you directly like this before. So we would love to hear from your perspective how it all began. We understand that you were training to be a psychoanalyst and then something happened and you sparked an interest in transactional analysis. So maybe you could tell us some of those early days for you when you first learned about TA, met Eric Byrne, your relationship with him. These would all be things that people would be really interested to hear.
Well, I can really focus more on myself and Eric Byrne. I read his first book, which was TA, Transactional Analysis in Psychotherapy, and was fascinated by it. I was a psychoanalyst at the time, and I was very discouraged with my work in psychoanalysis, which I later on summarized as really consisting of racketeering, but I saw that later from a transactional analysis position. That really they were bored women coming in for strokes, willing to pay a good amount of their husband's money for getting strokes about how hard their lives are, which of course they were not.
Right.
They were just bored.
Okay.
And wanting strokes. So I found that very boring. I didn't formulate it this way at the time. It was later with TA that I saw that this was a sort of a racketeering process. But after reading Eric Berne's book on TA and psychotherapy, I was fascinated and attended a workshop by David Kupfer, who is not remembered sufficiently now because he didn't leave anything, didn't write. He left a lot of tapes behind, but unfortunately these were these tapes that are no longer being used, so I don't know. But his biography is on volume 2 of the Transactional Analysis Bulletin. David Kupfer was really my mentor and taught me TA. Of course, it was conceptualized, however, by Eric Berne.
Yeah.
So these were the early days of TA, 1964, approximately, around that time. And there were a few other people who were part of Eric Berne's group.
Yes.
And Eric Berne ran a seminar in San Francisco. Of course, I lived in Chicago, so I didn't attend the seminar, but I attended the yearly conferences. And as I said, I ran workshops in the United States and then in Germany, France, Italy, and other places too.
So you were a pioneer in European transactional analysis?
Yes. I brought TA to Germany and participated in TA to France. Somebody else had started.
Yeah.
And also participated in TA in England. In Italy. Not in Italy. In England, I didn't think would... I mean, England couldn't afford to pay me the rates because they could get people from America, all English-speaking. The other countries were willing to pay my slightly higher rates because I spoke the languages.
So you're multilingual.
Yes. So I could present TA in Germany, and that's how I brought TA to Germany, and in France also. And as I said, I was not the first one in France, but I certainly contributed.
Wonderful.
France, and the same in Italy.
Brilliant.
And Faniта, from your perspective...
How did folks become interested in TA, and what are you doing now?
That's a good question. John and I are both students currently.
Yes.
So we are both studying psychotherapy and educational and organizational.
Oh.
So we're very committed in many ways.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, I should tell you that I did a certain number of workshops for particularly for German companies at the time.
Really? So you're interested in...
Although I'm a psychotherapist and focused primarily on therapists, I nevertheless worked also with corporations and organizations.
Interesting.
That's presumably what you're planning to do. So a lot of work in conflict resolution.
Yes. And so, Fanita...
It was very, very funny, actually. At some point I worked for an airplane company, and they were building airplanes, and it was meant cooperation between Germans and French factories. But their mentalities are very different. The Germans are very, very punctual and stiff. The French are very laissez-aller and relaxed and playful. And they had a lot of conflicts together. They had to resolve questions about the machinery, but they had trouble communicating and agreeing on certain patterns and stuff like that.
And did your work help to resolve those difficulties?
Yes. That's why I'm mentioning that as something that you might start out doing once you're trained.
Definitely. So, Fanita, what attracted you to TA initially?
The first attraction was Eric Berne's book, Transactional Analysis in Psychotherapy. And
why was it so attractive to you?
Because I could see that you can get effective results by contrast to psychoanalysis, which dragged on forever. And as I said, then my principal trainer, however, was David Kupfer, who was associated to Eric Berne. And he was a therapist, and so he trained me particularly to work with therapists in groups.
And did you work with groups or mainly with individuals?
Primarily with groups.
Okay.
More than individuals. Occasionally with individuals, but primarily with groups. And I found that groups were very effective because people heard from each other, and then I could come in with interventions about one person which might be interesting and appropriate for another person, and so on.
That's very different at the moment for most psychotherapists in the UK. We work with individuals, but it seems to be that group work is beginning to come back into fashion.
Well, yes, I recommend that, especially for people in organizational work, because you're likely to have conflicts, for instance, between a foreman in a company and his boss. And you might want to have the whole group meeting, in a small company, or the boss meeting with everybody else and so on.
Yeah. For you, what have been the most influential theories with your work?
Eric Berne's original model. There is a book by Harris, which is based on Berne's theories and summarizes them pretty well. That's a little bit later. You might want to buy that book too.
Is that I'm okay, you're okay?
Yes. It summarizes the theory fairly well. It's Berne's stuff. It's really not his stuff at all.
Yes. My mother gave me a copy of that to read when I was a teenager.
Yes. And that certainly gives you the idea.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to ask or mention?
I would love to ask you, actually, about one of my favourite theories in TA is your theory on the motivators.
On motivators?
Yes.
Oh, the three theories. Oh, yes. These are general motivators in our unconscious, and I've given them mythical names as though they're goddesses influencing us. The way the Greeks thought of goddesses influencing us from Olympus. I think of them as influencing us out of our unconscious.
Yeah.
And I call them Servia, Pasha, and Transia. They had other names. As I developed the theory, I used other names. I even originally used Disney names like Servi Spanky and so on. But these are the final names that I've settled on, and I'll summarize them. The first one is Servia. It's whatever drives us to concern ourselves with our physical well-being. Servia might be influencing us when about our choices of food, or our choices of location, or bodily comforts. Or our choices of education. So Servia is practical for our everyday life. That's the first one. Second one is Pasha, which stands for passion. And that's what gives meaning to our lives. And this is a topic, or it can be a person, but it can be a loved person, which is why Berne thought of sex, but that's not only sex. It's any kind of idea of concept that passionates us. For instance, Madame Curie was passionated about her work with radium and was willing to give up her life because she caught cancer as a result and continued to work at that. Because she was so passionate about that. Even though she had already won a Nobel Prize, but she still wanted to continue working on radioactivity. So that's Pasha. And the third is called Transia, for transcendence, which is everything from whatever is above and beyond everyday life. For instance, all the way from sleeping, the need for sleep, or the need for relaxation, to the need to religious needs or whatever, anything that gets us, transcends everyday reality. That's why it's transja. So I'll repeat, the first one is surya, serves our physical needs. You can spell surya with an E or with a U, either way. Surya, then pasha, which is passion, meaning, whatever lends meaning to our lives. And the third is transja, transcendence, which helps us get out of things. It's all the way from sleep, relaxing, to religious feelings or whatever.
Yeah. So, Fanita, could I ask you, I work with my wife, who is a physical therapist, and we often work with elderly clients, and I sometimes talk to them about their vitality.
Yes.
And I wondered how, for yourself, you have obviously lived a very long life, and it seems full of passion.
Yes.
How those theories have worked, and how those three motivators have worked with you and your resilience?
Well, that's a very good question. And actually, I was pretty bored with life around the time when I ran into TA, and I was already 54 years old at the time. And I was earning good money, and we needed the money, and that was useful, but I was not enjoying my work.
Yeah.
I was getting very, very bored with repetitive complaints of my clients who really only wanted strokes and sympathy for what they suffered, which was ridiculous. And so psychoanalysis did not arouse any passion in me, but transactional analysis became my passion because I found the work exciting, because I liked to start out working with contracts, with figuring out what it is we want to work with and what it is we want to resolve, rather than just sitting around complaining.
Yeah.
And transactional analysis became very important for my passion. And that's because I was already 54 years old. And after that, I really enjoyed my work tremendously, until to the year 2010, when I had an accident and became confined to my wheelchair. And then I continued working some of the time from my wheelchair, but then with the COVID and everything, had to stop that too.
Yeah.
So now I try to spend more time in transja, just relax and sleep and do next to nothing.
So looking after your body.
Yeah.
And do you think that it is your passion for TA and passion for learning about people and helping people that has enabled you to be so vital?
Yes. And that got me excited. And I think that helped me live longer, or at any rate enjoy my life more. I mean, I'm not excluding my other life. For instance, my wonderful daughter.
Yeah.
But just focusing on my daughter would not suffice, have been enough, or I could have been a real pain for her.
Yeah.
So transactional analysis and my work in that field became the central point of my life.
Great.
At some point you can find some ideas or some way of working or being or loving or changing or doing whatever you do that excites you. Maybe the word to use is excites you.
Yes.
And passion. And
yes.
That meaning gives meaning to our life in addition to other everyday meanings,
Yes.
which are important too. So that, I think, contributes to a longer life psychologically.
And do you think that passion and that interest in TA has also helped sustain your physical body.
Yes, I think it did, yes.
Interesting. Because that's something that I'm really interested in supporting our clients at the physiotherapy clinic, but also my elderly clients for psychotherapy.
Yes, absolutely.
So helping people find their passion.
Yes, it's a very good contract, by the way.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Pointing out to them that without that, it's a little harder to live because life becomes boring.
Yes. And you sound like you, because of your mind being able to speak 3 or 4 languages, sounds like you might get easily bored.
Why? Because of the languages?
No, because you have so many interests and your mental capacity seems large.
Well, it was, yes, it was, and I had to use it. But, I mean, there are all kinds of other factors that operate. I don't know. I think certainly genes. I mean, my mother lived a long life, too.
Did she?
Yeah.
How old was she?
107.
Oh, that's pretty good.
You see, I'm 104 now.
Yes, that's amazing.
But it's time for me to leave very soon.
And how do you, the topic of existentialism and your time here, what are your thoughts at the moment about that idea?
I am quite comfortable. I'm not a religious person.
Yeah.
But I'm quite comfortable with whatever may happen later on. I believe that science has some kind of an answer, and we can spend time talking about that, but I don't have the time right now.
Yeah.
But I'm quite comfortable with the idea of death, you see.
Yeah. And so you don't believe in a spiritual side of life, or?
Not the way people phrase it.
Yeah.
I'm quite comfortable about that.
That's fantastic.
I compare death more to the waves on the ocean. Life represents the waves, and at a certain point the wave settles down and dies, but there are other waves.
Yeah.
It's a little bit comparable to the Buddhist concept, but I'm not Buddhist either.
Yeah. And how do you feel about your contribution to the TA community? Do you feel proud of that?
Well, it's a nice community. I can't say it's terrific, but it's nice. It's comfortable.
Yeah.
It meets my surgeon needs.
Yeah.
So it's very nice talking with you, and I wish you well, and you sound as though you're on the path of doing some very exciting work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're really grateful for your time.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Matt and I would like to say a special thank you to Faniта for her time. We treasure the conversation we had with her. We would also like to say a special thank you to Fanita's daughter Deirdre, who we've been in contact with to organise this episode. Following on from the recording, Deirdre shared this reflection with us. She is 104 and a half. It's great she can still impact some of her wisdom. She sometimes tells a joke that goes like this. What is the most valuable thing in the world that you spend a lifetime gathering up, but once you have it, you can't give it away? Answer. Experience. Deirdre goes on to say, I'm glad that in this case you've enabled her to give away some of her most precious possessions.
As always, if you found anything in today's episode interesting, please feel free to reach out. You can visit our website, which has lots of information and TA resources, transactionalanalysispodcast.com. You can connect with us on all major platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can email us at 3peopleinyourhead@gmail.com using the number 3 rather than the word. If you haven't already, please follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. and we'd be really grateful if you could leave us a review. Thanks for listening.